Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Drawing with Mr. Spolvita. I'm Mr. Spolvita.
And I'm Graham.
And we're continuing to count down the 12 days of Christmas by creating 12 days of Christmas art. In yesterday's episode, we created a T-Rex folding surprise. Graham, can you let the viewers know what we're creating today?
Today we're going to create a snow globe.
Awesome, a snow globe. And can you tell them what materials we'll need for this project?
We're going to need oil pastels, blending materials, tape, and paper.
Awesome, and if you guys don't have those materials at home, you're more than welcome to use markers, colored pencils, crayons, paint, whatever it is that you guys have that you feel most comfortable with, okay? And go ahead, pause the video right now, grab those materials, and when you're ready, join us for a little bit of Christmas art. All right, guys, welcome back. So Graham and I already put up our borders on our papers. We got a pencil because we're gonna sketch out what the actual snow globe looks like first, okay? And so Graham, we're gonna go ahead and start off with the round part of the snow globe. If you want to, you can always use masking tape because it gives you a nice little circle to use, okay? So I'll go ahead and I will start off tracing this one really quickly, okay? And you can trace lightly if you want, darkly. Like I already kind of goofed up a little bit, but that's okay. All you got to do is just kind of erase any mistakes that you have. A lot of this is going to be covered up when we start putting in the oil pastels, so it's okay to start sketching on the lighter end of things. If you sketch dark, kind of like how Graham did, it still works out just the same because the colors are going to kind of block them out, okay? Next thing we need a little bit of a stand over here, so we'll go ahead and put in a stand. So Graham, normally I see stands that have a little bit of a curve to them, so I'm going to put a curve on this side, just a little bit. Okay, so you can go ahead and do that. Good, good. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, so give it another little bit of a curve. Yeah, there you go, Graham. And then we're going to kind of come down on both ends, so we're just kind of stretch them downward, kind of like this, because they're going to be sitting on a table, so my idea is the snow globe is going to be sitting on a table. Okay, and then what we're going to do here, instead of making a straight line across, we're going to make it rounder. So we're going to kind of go like this, kind of like in this formation. Do you see this, Graham? So we're going to go here and then go up that way.
Okay.
Okay. A little bit of a curve. It'll help us give that three-dimensional effect when we start coloring. Okay. Now that we have this, we actually don't need the pencils anymore. So we're going to put those away. Okay. And we got to start thinking about a couple things. Okay. What do you want to put in the center of this snow globe?
I want to put a Christmas tree.
Christmas tree is perfect. Okay, so for the Christmas tree, you're going to need a couple shades, okay? And we're going to take 2 shades of green. We're actually going to start off with the very lightest green that we've probably got, okay? I'm going to be using, right over here, just a regular green on my side. And I think, and this is from my Arteco brand, and then from the Faber-Castell, what have you got? Just like a light green, okay? So we're gonna use this, watch. So we're gonna start off by making the point of a tree, kind of like this. We'll be really light with it. It's kind of like an arrowhead, okay? Good, good. And from this, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of put in some lines just like this and color it on the inside, okay? So we're gonna keep that point near the top. We're gonna keep that as clean as possible. We're gonna end up blending this out after, and we'll show you exactly how that works, okay? Good. And then we're going to go ahead and do another layer. This time we're just kind of make it wider. Okay? Just like a regular Christmas tree. We're just kind of adding layers to this, okay?
So we leave blank space in the middle?
Perfect, perfect. I'm glad you said that. Yes, we're leaving a little bit of a blank space between them, right? So it doesn't have to be as dramatic as what I have, but it can be, okay? And then we'll kind of color it all in there on its own, okay? So this looks pretty good. Yep, there you go. And the best part is when we blend them, they'll smooth out and they'll fill in any and all gaps. It makes it different than crayons if you use crayons, okay? That looks pretty good there. If you want to close it up just a little bit more, you definitely can. Right, so like going up here in this area, so you see that? So that gap, so we can kind of close that gap a little bit. Okay, there you go. All right, and then we're gonna make one more layer. I'm gonna do the same thing, just kind of shoot it outward. Just like that. I'm kind of coming back just to kind of close it off a bit. Right, no trees are perfect, but this will be kind of good. Right? Just like that. Okay, I'm gonna keep this green. I'm not gonna lose it. Okay, I'm gonna keep it right here to the side, and then I'm gonna grab a darker green for this. Okay, so he's using a dark green from that set. I'm using a forest green, and what we're gonna do with these colors are, we're gonna end up coloring in the bottom parts of these trees so that we can kind of get a shadow. Now, some sets come with multiple dark greens, right? Or multiple light greens or variations. Like I'm using like a 48 piece set. The one that Graham's using has a 12 set, And so what happens is you can always use black as a third shading color in case we need it, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing down here. So I'm just gonna kind of fill in this space. I'm being kind of light with it because I don't know if you noticed it, because it's oil, it's kind of smooth, right? So it kind of like just kind of pushes itself out without even doing too much effort. And we're gonna do the same thing on this top layer that we did.
Why are we shading the bottom and not the whole thing?
Okay, so the reason we're shading the bottom is because it gives the illusion of layers. So when we have the light on the top, and then that means we're gonna have shadow on the bottom. It's kind of the same reason if you put a flashlight to the top of your hand, it's lit here, but your bottom part of your hand is all in shadow, okay? All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna grab a blending tool. We can use these Q-tips, right? We've got some Q-tips here. We're beauty blenders, right? And what we'll do is we'll kind of start smoothing this out, and I'm gonna do the same directions that we did before. Remember when we were using the oil pastels and we're going up and down like that? I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just kind of keeping it on an angle, trying to keep my center that way. And I'm just gonna blend these colors together. You can always use your finger if you don't have a Q-tip, or if you don't have a tortillon, like a blending stump. They work out just the same. I just kind of like using these for smaller pieces, and then I like using my hands for a much bigger kind of piece, okay? When we get to the background, that's when I'm going to definitely use my fingers, because we're going to end up coloring that in, okay? All right, so we're going to just kind of follow that. Look how smooth that is, right? It's kind of going up and down. Just make sure it's all in there. Good. Good. And we're not closing up much of these gaps. We are kind of leaving that, like, I'm kind of closing it off a little bit, but not a lot, right? I'm getting closer, but never really touching that edge. Okay, and when you feel comfortable, okay? Feel good with that? A little bit? Okay, and if you notice that you're running out of color, you know what the best thing to do is?
Keep coloring?
Yeah, so you can go back with your top layer and re-add it, reapply it, because all that's gonna do, and I'll even do to mine if it helps, it's just gonna kind of pop it out more, right? So like my light green's now on top of this mixed color, and it makes it look like other individual leaves are on there. So it does add to that layering effect, which is really nice. And I'll even show you a little bit of stippling later when it comes time for the snow, okay? And stippling just means that we're just gonna be pushing down on some dots, okay? So I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish that, and when you feel comfortable, just let me know.
Okay.
This will be the time lapse part. Okay, good. All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're actually gonna move away from the tree. We're just gonna let it sit there. And we're gonna go into our base over here, okay? I like to use yellow for mine, so I'm gonna grab a yellow. Okay, so I'm gonna use yellow for the base. I'm also gonna grab a couple other colors along with this, Graham, okay? I'm gonna grab a brown. So it could be a light brown, it could be a dark brown, it just has to be a brown. Graham and I found this one earlier, it's tortilla, so I'm gonna totally use that one. I think it's a fun one. Graham's here laughing, hopefully you guys can hear that. And then I think a black would be really cool. So this is gonna be like 3 colors, because it gives us a light, a middle, and a dark. Okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna, you know how we said that this shape is round, it's like 3-dimensional?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of, sorry, I'm just gonna kind of make it as though it's 3-dimensional. I'm just gonna kind of do this swoop. So remember how we made this line like this? Mm-hmm. That's the exact same curve I'm doing on the inside with this yellow. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. The best part about oil pastels is that 1, they're messy, and 2, you can always keep applying them on top of each other. Okay, so if you feel good there, that's kind of nice. We'll grab the brown, and we'll also do the same thing. I like to keep my browns a little bit closer to the edges, because that means there's going to be a little bit more light or a little bit more shiny, or shininess, I guess, a little bit more luster happening on the front end, okay? So I'm just going to kind of do this, just kind of coloring these. I'm not coloring in the snow globe, right? Don't want to touch that. I'm going to try to avoid it as best as possible. I'm going to get as close as I can without touching it, because in reality what we're going to do is we're going to use a blender to kind of smooth that out, okay? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and blend these before we apply the black, okay? So we're going to go ahead and just kind of smudge them up together, okay? And they should more or less blend nicely, right? These colors are kind of the same on, or about the same spectrum, right, of color. So we're just going to kind of smooth them out. And I'm kind of keeping that shape as I smooth it. I can rotate my beauty blender, right, or my Q-tip as I go. And if they rip, it's okay. Just grab a new one, right? We got plenty of them here. You can get a whole pack of these at the Dollar Tree, you know. They're not too bad, okay? Or if you don't want to use these, obviously you can use your hands. It just requires you to kind of come back and clean them back up, right? Okay, so I think I smoothed it out enough. I know it's not perfect, but that's okay because I got to keep blending it. So I'm gonna just let it sit there. I'm actually gonna move this Q-tip away. I'll grab a new clean one. Okay, so I'm gonna use a clean one on this one. I'm gonna come back over this. I wanna hit back that yellow right down the center. Just like that, just kind of going back and forth, right down the center. Because again, this is where the light's gonna be, right? Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my brown. Okay, and the brown, I'm just gonna kind of pop it back out on the edges. I'm just gonna kind of go back to the edge. Okay, just kind of pop it back that way. And then this is where the black comes in, okay? The black kind of is really nice because usually when I draw, I usually do it like an outline. This one kind of helps out a little bit. I'm just gonna stick to the edges, kind of like this, right? And I'll let you see that, just like that, okay? Yeah, and what you just did there is actually what we're doing next. So we're actually gonna kind of swipe them in, okay? And then swipe this side in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the exact same thing again, okay? So I'm gonna use this new Q-tip because my other one kind of got destroyed a little bit. And I'm gonna actually start it from the middle and then make my way out. So this yellow can blend into that brown really nicely. Good. Apparently I got a little bit of green on that one color, but that's okay. It'll kind of be like a reflection of that tree. And then I'm just gonna smooth out this black over here. I'm just kind of using circular motions because I feel like it helps it spread a little bit better. But everyone's going to find a technique that works best for them when they're blending. So just use what works best for you. And so look, I'll kind of like shove part of this black down this way. I'm just going to kind of spread it back towards the center.
If it gets too dark, can I put more yellow on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can actually add more lighter colors to it, and it should fix itself as you go, because it's meant to be layered. It's kind of like an oil painting. By mixing around the yellows, browns, and blacks, we're really kind of making a gold, or a type of gold color in here, okay? And that's kind of just how gold kind of works with like the color range of things. And I mean, we'll obviously add other colors like whites to it, and we'll kind of fix it up as we go, okay? So we'll actually this won't be the last time we touch this, but it will kind of start us off, okay? So I'm gonna let this kind of sit like this. So far so good, right? We will end up putting some colors here, and we can kind of reshape the tree in a moment. But first, let's do the outside, okay? For this, we're also gonna need 2 different greens, okay? I know for you've only got the 2 greens in that set, but I'm gonna change up the greens that I use, okay? So I'm gonna use a moss green, and then I might just put in a viridian, okay? So I'm gonna change them up, okay? One's kind of turquoisey, okay? We're gonna make some plants. We're gonna have the plants kind of hover off the sides, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of make a line, and a line on that side. They're gonna kind of hover just above, okay? And if you want to, you can always have one coming from below that could be sitting on the table that we're gonna make, but I think I'm gonna just leave it at the 2 at the top,
yeah.
okay? And so what we're gonna do with these plants, first we gotta give them leaves, okay? So normally the plants that I see around Christmas time, I don't know what they're called, but they kind of look like this, where they have 2 leaves on each side, right? Almost like these little boomerangs, right? And they kind of just connect to a stem. And I'll even put like a point over here.
Should we color them in?
Actually, yes, that's exactly what we're gonna do. So we're gonna color this in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that other green, we're gonna kind of add a little bit of that there. So look, I'm gonna follow those lines I made. So I kind of follow that stem. So I'm just adding that stem color in. Yeah, it looks good. And then I'm just going to add lines instead of coloring the whole thing. But you can feel more than free to color on top. But I'm just going to add lines for where those leaves are coming out. Because I think that'll look pretty nice, right? It gives it a 2-tone kind of look. You can also use a blending tool for this one if you want, or you can kind of leave it the way it is. I'm going to take this stump though, or not the blending stump, I'm going to take this beauty blender, right, this Q-tip, and just kind of color it up. I'm just going to follow that line that I made for that stem and then go into the leaves just the one time. I'm not going to go back and forth with it, just kind of following that exact same line over until I reach the end of it.
Should we blend the leaves?
Okay. Well, you can if you want to. You absolutely do not have to. We'll actually come back here in a little bit because what's going to happen is we're going to end up doing the background, and it might require a little bit more blending of colors as we go through it, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to leave that like that. And we're going to need 3 colors. Okay. And I say 3 colors, and I'm thinking warm tones. And I'm thinking warm tones for a reason, because I think it'll make the cool tones that we'll put in here pop out a little bit more. And so for the warm tones, we're going to need a red, an orange, and a yellow. And since I already used this yellow, I'm just going to use it again. Okay. So red, orange, and yellow. Okay. I'm thinking we'll go maybe yellow to reddish to orange this way. I think that'll look pretty nice, so I'll put my oil pastels that way. We're not going to come all the way down because there's going to be some sort of table that it's sitting on. But I'm going to start off with yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start coloring in this area. Just, trying to get into these areas. I'm going to end up blending them with my finger anyways, so I can get close. Just don't want to touch certain things. Like I don't want to touch that snow globe necessarily. Okay, so I've got this yellow in here. Okay, so I'm going to go maybe that high up. And I'm sticking to like the edge over here a little bit, because when we remove the tape, it's going to have a nice frame. Okay, so we got the yellows. You can go as high up as you want. Okay, this part, doesn't really matter on that. Okay, we'll go into what I say, red, right?
Yeah, red.
Okay, so we'll go into red. So I'm going to use the red to kind of cover this entire top. So I'm going to kind of go ahead. I'm just going to pick this out just like this.
Does it matter what shade, red or yellow or orange?
Honestly, no. We could have chosen just about any color. We could have used purples and blues, right? But I chose warm colors because I think, again, it'll just make the cool colors pop. But it's entirely up to you what your choice is or what your likes are for colors. Like some people prefer the cooler tones. I kind of like these warm tones contrasting the cool tones. So when I say cool tones, I'm talking about like the blues, right? Those areas, like some purples, versus hot colors like orange, yellow, red on that end of the spectrum. And then we're gonna do the same thing with orange, and we'll kind of stop it around the same spot as that yellow was, right? And just kind of fill in this gap. So I'm just gonna go up and down, not touching that. Necessarily touching the snow globe, but getting close, right? This one went over a little bit. You can kind of see how I went over a little bit. That's okay. It's not going to mess anything up. So if you're afraid of that, don't be, because all this stuff is going to get blended momentarily, okay? All right. So this is where the messy part comes in, Graham. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is where we decide to use a blending stump, to use a Q-tip, to use your finger. Honestly, the finger, because of the natural oils in your hands, it'll make this go so much faster. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna smudge all of this out. Okay, you guys will see a time lapse, and we'll join you in just a moment. Okay. All right. So now that we've got the backgrounds, you may have noticed I ended up kind of going back in with some reds and oranges on both ends, just trying to spread the color a little bit, okay? And then just kind of moving it a little bit hard with my finger, just to kind of let it go, okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to add some of the same 3 colors, so the reds, oranges, and yellows, into the snow globe, because it'll give us that like reflection kind of effect. With what's bouncing around it, okay? So I'm gonna put in some reds over here. Okay, I'm gonna put some reds over here. I'm gonna put in some yellows. And we're just kind of keeping it to like the center area, right? So nothing too crazy. And then this orange. So I'm just gonna kind of keep the orange. And just like before, you guessed it, we're gonna smudge these. Kind of leave it like that. It kind of looks almost like a sunset for some reason, right? I'm gonna leave that part like that, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go grab some blues. Okay, so we need a light blue and a dark blue. All right, so we got our blues, right? Light blue and a dark blue. And this is what I'm gonna have you do, okay? So I'm gonna start going closer to the edge with this light blue, kind of like this. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, just like that, okay? Just like that, good. Okay, and then we're gonna mix it in. I'm gonna use my finger for this. I'm using my middle, I'm using a different finger for this part. Just gonna mix it in real quick. Just a couple, rubs with that. And then I'm gonna grab the dark blue, okay? And we're gonna go ahead and just put like a little bit of a line that kind of separates it up a little bit. But we'll rub that in there as well, okay? So we'll go ahead and use that.
What if we get too close to the tree?
It'll be okay, because the best part about oil pastels is we can fix all of that up by just kind of layering on top, okay? So we got that going on. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some white. So grab a white. Okay. And we gotta make sure it's clean. Like I know mine's dirty, so I'm just gonna rub it off with my thumb, right? Cleans it up for the most part. It's gonna get dirty anyways. But I'm gonna add some white over here. It'll give it a little bit of a shine effect on our snow globe. I'll add some to this side as well. And we're also going to end up with snow eventually, but we can kind of put some of that stuff in. So I'm just going to kind of color the bottom part white. I'm going to be a little bit heavier with it, just because, winter, snow, right, Christmas tree, stuff like that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more down here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to use is probably another Q-tip. This might help us out, or another beauty blender or a stump. And I'm just going to kind of follow this circle, right? Follow the globe with that white. Okay? And it'll kind of help us out. And when you feel like you're running out of white, you can either add more white or you'll just end up at the other side, blending in that white. Okay? So I'm kind of rubbing it this way. And if you feel like you need more, just add. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to add more white. And the best part about all these other colors in here is they kind of show like there's a reflection, right? Because it's supposed to be glass, it's supposed to be transparent, it's supposed to be see-through. And I think this kind of helps out with the illusion. I'm also going to the bottom that has the quote-unquote snow. I'm also rubbing that in as well. Just a little bit. Just to smooth it out. I'm not going to be too rough with it. And if I feel like I need more white down here, because I'm going to add in a little bit. Okay. And we're going to get to that winter wonderland scene, right, where we have like some snow and everything in just a moment. Okay. So this is kind of where we can make a couple things happen for ourselves. Okay. Number one, if we're at a spot where we feel like we got to blend a little bit better or add more color, that's exactly what we're going to do. If our trees aren't popping the way that we had thought they would, that's when we kind of go back over them, right? And we'll be a little bit more darker, right? A little bit more forceful with it. So you can kind of see how like this is kind of coming along a little bit better, right? So I'm going to just kind of make sure that I have that same shape that I've been looking for this entire time, right? It's supposed to be almost like a triangle or like a nacho or a Dorito or whatever, right? And I'm just kind of adding in some of these extra greens, okay? And I don't have to blend them necessarily on this time around, okay? I can go back to my dark greens and kind of hit those up too. And at this point, we might be closing up the gap between all of these colors, and that's okay. So like, if you look at Mindgram, I'm actually closing up my gaps now, because I think we can totally do that. Okay? And again, I can come back and I can push in that light green back over it a little bit. And that just kind of creates depth. So it'll kind of show that it's a little bit more, like it's not flat is what I'm saying, okay?
Hey boys and girls, just a quick interruption to say that during our drawing process, I noticed that Graham was feeling a little frustrated with his drawing. So I talked to him about it, And I explained to him that sometimes it's not the artist, sometimes it's the art materials, and each art material acts a little bit different. So the Arteco brand that I'm using versus the Faber-Castell, one's a little bit more smoother. That's the one that I'm using versus the one that's a little bit harder, the one that's Graham's using. But I did show him that no matter what, you're able to fix the art using oil pastels by simply just going over them.
All right, guys, so we got this done. We're gonna move into the table. And for the table, we are gonna need just a couple colors. I'm gonna use black, and I'm gonna use a different shade of brown. I'm gonna use a dark brown. I know you got the one brown here, but it should still work. Oh, you got a lighter brown?
Yes.
All right, cool. So we can totally do that. You can either do 2 to 3 colors on this. I'm gonna use these two.
I'm just going to use 2 too.
Yeah, for this one, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is end up making where the table is. So a little flat straight line, okay? Just like
Now,
that.
should I use a darker color?
Yeah, you can use the darker color. Doesn't matter which one you use. Okay. There you go. Perfect. And then all we got to do, one of these. Just a few lines coming across on both sides. Right? Just like that. We can squiggle them in here if we want to. Right? We can have fun with it. Okay. And then what I'm going to do with the black is kind of do what we did before in here. Remember how we did it on the edges?
Yeah.
We'll kind of keep the same thing true. So we'll kind of keep some of the blacks to the edges. I'm going to kind of keep it down here somewhere. Maybe even kind of popping across here a little bit just to kind of give an illusion that we got some extra shade going on, just like that. And for this one, Graham and I already did. We washed our hands. So this way we can not mess around with the color that's on the table. So let's go ahead. We'll just make sure that we're smooth left to right. It's okay if you have to go around this part, but when you're done, just kind of smooth it left to right, okay? We finished the bottom. A couple things real quick. I want to go back up here to make sure that these stick out a little bit more. So I am going to make this a little bit thicker. Okay. Make this a little bit thicker. Make sure it's colored up. We might not have to blend it all. We're just going to color on top of it. Just like that. Okay. Do the same thing to the other one. I want to make sure that these pop out a little bit more in like the foreground and not necessarily the background. So I'm going to make sure that I'll darken that up a little bit. And if you want to use that other color you used before to make those lines, feel free. But again, you don't have to blend them unless you want to. I might choose to blend them real quick just because there wasn't a lot. It was just following the one line over and over. So I'm just going to go this way, go it that way. I'm only going to do this super lightly. I don't want to put too much pressure because I don't want to smudge it too much as I go across. Because it just gives us a nice little shape. Plus I also like the way that the reds and yellows and oranges kind of plays on it. So I'm kind of liking that, so I don't want to ruin that too much. Okay? And I'm liking the way yours is turning out. Okay? So we got a couple things here. I want to put in some lights. And the best way for me to think about lights is by going back to my yellow. Okay, so I'm going to actually give you this one. Okay, you take that yellow. I'm going to take another yellow. And what we're going to do is really simple. These you don't have to press too hard on because they're a little bit higher quality.
Okay.
Right? So look, watch me first and then you'll do, okay? So I'm going to do like a small circle like that. And then I'm just going to color it in a little bit.
Okay.
Smaller circle, bigger circle. Okay, smaller circle, medium circle. So we're gonna put a bunch of different shaped circles throughout, okay? So go ahead and do that for me. So we got that, we're just gonna smudge them up a little bit, not a whole lot, just barely touching them. Okay, because we're actually gonna add one more color to them. Okay, and that color is white. This one's dirty, I'm just gonna, wipe it on a clean hand. I don't know why I put it on my dirty hand, but there we go. All right, good. And I'm just gonna put a line of white, kind of like this. It almost makes it look like a bubble. There we go.
Should we do it inside or like on the outline?
I put it on the inside for most of it. And then with the same finger that I blended, I'm just gonna blend it again. because it just kind of pops out a little bit. And it's up to you. If you don't like how subtle this lighting is, you can always go darker or lighter. So like, let's say I didn't like this, I can go more white on all of them, right? So I can do more white like this, for instance, if I'm not happy with how subtle it is. I can add more yellow to it if I want the yellow to be in there, right? And they don't have to be yellow lights necessarily, but they can be whatever lights you want them to be. And I can take that same finger I smudged before and smudge them.
What if it kind of blends into the colors?
Okay, so if you feel like it's blending in too much, then I would change up my color.
Okay.
So like, I like how the red blends in here with the yellow. I kind of like that effect. I like that it's subtle, it looks faded out, it looks like it's really there in the background versus up front. Like you can tell, this tree, this snow globe, it's right up front. This table, right up front. And you can tell like those lights in that background really far back.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that subtle look, okay? That's just me. But again, it's all preference, right? You're the artist, you gotta make the decisions that you want, okay? All right, and last but not least, guys, here we go. This is where we're gonna put some snow inside of a snow globe. We need snow in there besides on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just kind of cleaned off my white, and I'm gonna show you this. This is stippling. So stippling is a technique where you just start dotting around. I'm gonna put a few of them up top, but guess what? I gotta put some on the tree. Gotta put some on the tree, so I'm just gonna put some on the tree.
What if it's not showing up?
If it's not showing up, you might have to keep, so see how I made this one darker? If I keep staying on the same spot, it'll definitely show up a little bit better, okay? If it's not showing up for you, because you got all the colors on it, I suggest maybe just really wiping that off, so I'll wipe off most of that color, okay? There we go. And that one might help out a little bit more, okay? Yeah, see that's popping up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that might make all the difference. Okay, oops, sorry. And the last thing that we're gonna do to like really make sure that this is all set is Graham and I are gonna each take a tortillin, okay? These are like blending stumps, okay? They look kind of like rolled up toilet paper, right? And for the snow, this is all you gotta do. Just quick wipe, just like that. And that'll give the effect that it's snowing inside there. So I'm just kind of wiping off on the snow and the white bits that I've got. I'm putting them all in one direction. You can put them in as many directions as you want. And if you don't feel like it's there, right? We can always add more white or stipple, just like what you're doing, just in case. Okay? So I'm kind of liking this. I might add a few more, just like you. It's supposed to be a winter wonderland, right? And then I'll just kind of smudge them down, okay? So I'm gonna smudge. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hopefully your snow globes turned out really well, okay? And if you feel like yours turned out nice and you want to send it to me, send it to the email down in the description down below. And please remember to join us tomorrow where we'll be
making a Santa sleigh and reindeer.
And a reindeer. Perfect. I knew I got the best co-host here for today. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. You guys take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.